Hello, sir. I'm Rinsha. First, thank you for the enlightening session. I have a question that caste is not just about upper and lower tuitions. There are hierarchies within caste. And what do you think the future of caste and Dalit studies that looks like in India?
That's a very engaging and relevant question in the present because of the educational kind of reforms in India that is happening under the tag the National Education Policy (NEP) that was passed in 2020 by the Parliament. These paradigms of resistance, this critical engagement with Indian society and polity, these are under attack from the top, that is true. But fortunately in our state, in South India, we have a legacy and tradition of critiquing caste because of the so-called Renaissance traditions, the Arivoli or Renaissance cultures, and educational kind of attempts. So at least in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Telangana regions, we have the autonomy. Even today, according to the constitutional principles, education is in the concurrent list. But many things are done against it, as I have elaborated on the attack against the Constitution's fundamental rights, freedom of opinion, right to representation, human rights and all. Many things are done against it. So the forcing of NEP is such an instance. But still, we have the leverage, we have the potential to resist this hegemonic master plan or the homogenizing totalitarian plan from the center or from the level of the union regime through including and diversifying our curriculum and syllabi. So that's the place of Dalit literature. We can include more from it. Already something from Poigai Appachan. You have Poigai Ammachi also. The gender diversity, the gender aspect is being articulated by the the partner of Poigai Appachan. She is called Poigai Ammachi, V. Yanamma, or the respectfully called Ammachi. Ammachi's verses are also. So we can bring in that kind of lost and erased voices from Dalit women. We can bring in something from minority cultural legacies. When I visited the Kuba here, you have also that Valiyamma is also there. So that kind of diversities and cultural nuances, articulations from the minor and the marginalia, we can highlight in our own curriculum that kind of freedom, at least partial freedom. It's of course it's a centralized grand plan, totalitarian agenda is behind it, but still we can struggle to resist and negotiate. We can struggle hard, I think. So the fight is on, and it has begun even before the Buddhas. I told you from the Vedic age onwards. It's more than 3,000 years of struggle in India against this oppressive, anti-human, Brahmanical Vedic legacy. So it will continue. I think it won't end today. We don't have easy answers or sudden kind of salvation as Poigai Appachan has offered. But the struggle will go on. It's an epistemological and cultural struggle according to the Dalit Bahujan critic and philosopher Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd. It's an epistemological conflict and struggle in India. A struggle against Brahmanism by the Bahujan culture. So this will go on, I think. The struggle is on. We have to fight it out. we will have to struggle on. That is the only finish. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Hi sir, I'm Rusnia Sharin from third year BA English, and my question is: critics argue that caste-based reservation reinforce caste division. Then how do you respond to this criticism?
Actually, as I have elaborated, India is a caste society. Caste divisions were done in India from this Vedic age onwards, from the Rigvedic Purusha Sukta to separate the people. That's why Ambedkar has addressed it as the inclusion of the separated, but there must be special provisions for it. Those who are socially segregated, they must be politically segregated, and their entry, their admission, their representation must be ensured. That's why the system of reservation is in place. So in India, caste and gender were the problems of the factors of exclusion. Therefore, that is to be taken into consideration when we devise policies of inclusion also. So there is no other effective policy and practice. If you have any other kind of practices to ensure representation, social representation of all these people, then you can, of course, you can get rid of reservation. But until you ensure the steady representation of these underrepresented, excluded people, you cannot think of alleviating or dispensing this caste-based reservation. So that is the fact that we must remember. It is not given as a charity. It is to ensure democracy, because democracy is the politics of inclusion. Democracy is the politics of social representation. Without social representation or samudayika samvaranam, you cannot ensure the participation and representation of the various communities. That is the dream of the architect of the Indian Constitution that was thoroughly debated in the Constituent Assembly, and it is the stance of some scheduled caste members, Muniswamy and Nagappa, in 1947. When the Constituent Assembly was there were heated debates on this system. But it is some two Tamil people, two Tamil scheduled caste people who supported the idea of Ambedkar, Muniswamy and Nagappa. They said that we are nothing. We don't have any forms of capital. We don't have good education. We don't have good houses. We don't have cars and other provisions. But we are human beings. At the level of humanity, we need voice and agency. We need representation. So we are human beings. We are human communities. We need voice and agency and due and adequate representation according to the population in a democracy. There is no other practical way to ensure that in a democracy but affirmative action or reservation, as it is called in India. So until you ensure that due and adequate representation of all communities, you cannot get rid of thinking about reservation. That is the issue. It is nothing related to economics. Economics is never a criterion as per the Constitution or in any other part of the world. Even in America, which is supposed to be the citadel and paradise of capitalism, even they have something called social diversification program. Affirmative action is practiced by the state in all realms, including education. Even in judiciary, it is there. In American Supreme Court, in the constitutional bench, they have some more than 20 members there in the constitutional bench. At least 2 or 3 are from the black community, or African American, or Hispanic, or Asian American People are there in the Supreme Court. But in India, what is the nature of collegium in India? Collegium has become a casteist kind of Brahmanical, mere Brahmanical thing because reservation is not implemented in judiciary. In judiciary and military and in many paramilitary kind of forces, reservation is not done, not mandatory, and therefore they have become caste Hindu. Completely Brahmanical and patriarchal institution. That is why anti-people judgments, the recent creamy layer for SCST and attack on the madrasa or the attack on the social reservation policies are coming from the court. EWS, that was attested by the Supreme Court as well, because it has become an institution of lack of representation. There is no social representation, adequate representation there. It is happening. Even in America, it is affirmative action, judiciary, African American women. Many of the Supreme Court Chief Justice, that panel, Constitution bench, women, black women are there, Hispanic women are there. And in the media, even private-owned media, they have to publicize their what you call social profile. Social profile means you have to say how many Asians are there, how many Muslims are there, how many African Americans are there in your institution. So that is mandatory every year. It's a formality. Every year they have to publish that detail. If they are lacking in social diversity, they have to ensure that in the next recruitment, or at least special recruitment must be there to include these sections, the minorities and others of the nation, the challenged sections there. So it's practiced even in capitalist America, and in India it is under attack, which is the foundational value of a democratic constitution. So this is not taught, this is a fundamental right also. In India, as per the Indian constitution, right to representation is included in chapter 3, 16.4 is that clause. The article 16.4 that ensures that this must be done. This is a fundamental right. I hope I am clear. Thank you.
Hello sir, I am Lakshmi Priya, second year PG student. I would like to know why Dalit literature or Dalit experiences are often portrayed in memoirs and autobiographies. Why is fiction ineffective in portraying these experiences?
Yes, in the initial trend after Ambedkar in Marathi literature where it began its modern phase, they were writing about their lives. Life narratives were common. So that's why in South India also, in Tamil also, autobiographical writing became more popular. Even in Hindi also you have Akarmashi and Chutan and all those things. Omprakash Valmiki, Marathi also, Limbale and others, that Bama in Tamil and also, but they have also written fiction. Later, in the later stage, which is not much popular. Here everything is mediated in Kerala. What is getting translated into Malayalam is determined by the caste Hindu kind of intelligentsia and the editors. Whatever is published in the periodicals also, it's scrutinized and mediated and highly diluted and edited by the caste Hindu common sense also. As I was talking to Professor K.N. Kunyamada yesterday, so he was also talking about the common sense becoming caste Hindu Brahmanical thing in Kerala in particular, and the fight against that Brahmanical or Shudra dominant form of caste Hindu common sense is necessary. But many writers like Meena Kandasamy, for example, she has written that novel, Gypsy Goddess, that's in English language. Directly she has rendered in English language. And also Shivkami, P. Shivkami IAS, she has created 4 or 6 novels. One of my students, she has done her PhD on the Tamil Dalit fiction. So Shivkami's 5 or 6 novels, they are not exactly autobiographical. Of course, the experience of the self and the community, they are persistent kind of significant presence in the narratives, but fiction is also, that's why I mentioned Pushpamma. Kerala, the example is Pushpamma, D. Rajan and Paul Chirakarode. They have all written novels, like the short stories of C. Ayyappan. You have many novels in Kerala. And Adivasi women, Adivasis are also writing novels. Pushpamma has written, an ancient tribal woman. She has written 2 novels now. She is into writing now. So they are also into creating fiction and short fiction and other things, other narratives and all. So it has become a diverse field. It's not just reduced to autobiography now.
Hello sir, my name is Amina. And first of all, I would like to thank for the enlightening and informative session for us. And I have a question. What similarities exist between subaltern studies and Dalit studies?
Exactly, they are related in the sense that they are trying to voice the underrepresented. But the critical point regarding subaltern studies is that it is an extension of post-colonial theory and post-colonial forms of criticism. And that is predominantly monopolized or overrepresented by the caste Hindu elites in particular. The Indian elites in the Western academia, like Spivak or Ranajit Guha, Partha Chatterjee and others, so they have monopolized it, and it was a kind of slight critical extension. They applied that model of the Gramscian subaltern and subaltern studies into the nationalist framework in India. The very project of subaltern studies in India under Ranajit Guha and Partha Chatterjee, and later Spivak also joined them in some of their conferences and volumes, is that they want to rehabilitate the voices of the people or the subaltern into the nationalist framework. So their framework again is the nationalism kind of terrain, and also they included themselves into the subaltern. That is the speaking for the subaltern. Their agency is already taken away, and also they considered themselves, all the formerly colonized world, as subaltern. But the reality is that within the colonized world we have the untouchables here. We have the other excluded, socially contested, weaker sections and minorities here. So that diversity, the heterogeneity of the subaltern is not exactly addressed by the Indian Subaltern Studies Group, which was an extension of the post-colonial discourse, of course monopolized by the Indian elites. But with this kind of taking away of the agency, the real subaltern began to speak from India. That is what happened in Dalit literature and Dalit Bahujan literatures. When the real outcasts, when the real untouchables began to write and speak, as we have seen recently in JNU, in which Spivak was involved, she never accepted the voice of a real Dalit. So he was muted by Professor Spivak, a person so eminent subaltern studies and post-colonial critique like Professor Spivak couldn't even take that question. She tried to mute him by talking about the accent and all, talking about literary and what you call the accent and linguistic things. She muted that Dalit boy. So when the real subaltern, when they are speaking, naturally the Indian Subaltern Studies Group, they have come to an end in 2013. Some 10 years before, their volumes came to an end. So that is the power of Dalit writing and Dalit speech, that when the real subaltern will speak, the other overrepresented, monopolized kind of mediations will stop. So that kind of a dialectical relationship is also there between the Indian Subaltern Studies project, which is a post-colonial endeavor, monopolized by the elites, and real Dalit writing from the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and OBCs and other Shudra women and minorities of India.
Good morning, sir. I'm Aniba, third year BA English. My question is that caste is some compares caste to racial inequities. So, in your view, how caste hierarchy is different from racial hierarchy?
According to Ambedkar, it is not exactly a racist division. Many aspects of racism is there in casteism also: social exclusion, untouchability, othering, demonizing, exploitation, slavery. All these are overlapping things in racism and casteism. But here, in the caste system of India, it is legitimized as religious. You relate it to the karma theory and also the what you call the religious kind of metaphysics. So it is part of the Rig Veda. Purusha Sutta is part of the Rig Veda. So it is religious, in religious terms it is justified. That's why Ambedkar said, if you want to annihilate the caste, you need to annihilate its religious metaphysics. You have to address that religious metaphysics and critique and reject it also. So then only it will be possible. So that's why he said, what I talked about Manusmriti and all, I mentioned Narayana Guru ridiculing it and all. So Ambedkar said it must be exploded. The imperial textualities, Smriti Puranas, must be exploded and annihilated through a bomb or something. It must be exploded with something, with a torpedo or something, then only you can relieve yourself from the hell of caste. That was the vision. And when he embraced Buddhism, 1956 at Nagpur, right beneath the nose of the RSS, in Nagpur, Diksha Bhumi, he made a historic speech, and towards the end he said, now I am relieved from the hell of caste. That was the statement. So along with 5 lakh followers, more than 5 lakh untouchables, along with Ambedkar, they embraced the new religion, the modern religion, the Navana of Buddhism, along with Ambedkar. So that kind of changes can create a change, a cultural and social and national change. The monolithical imagination of Hindutva, the grand plan and totalitarian kind of scheme of things by Hinduism can be challenged as well. So it's more a religious kind of sanctioned kind of ignorance here. It's a hegemony. You can use Gramscian paradigm of hegemony to address it because it is culturally and socially conditioned and normalized. Everything is being normalized and regularized, and certain scapegoats are created. Like the Zui or the Homo sac. In Agabinian terms, you can talk about these untouchables as the Homo sac, or the sacrificial animals are being created in this state of exception, and it will naturally it will advance to this kind of a fascist situation where human beings are lynched on the street, and you are not even knowing about it. It's recently also Kayan was talking about that. We know George Floyd and all those things, Maya Angelou and George Floyd and all, but we don't know Akhilak or Pehlu Khan or many others who are on a regular basis. They are lynched on the streets of India. We don't consider it as a crime. We don't see it because of this Varnashrama Dharma. The Sanatana Dharma is there. So they are sacrificial animals. You can kill at your whims and fancies. So that kind of a dehumanizing religious kind of metaphysics is also there. It is sanctioned as religion, it is considered as sacred, and it is part of the purity, pollution, riddles of Brahmanism, if you indulge in it. That's why I mentioned Ambedkar writing 20 volumes critiquing this caste system. And he declared it in 1935 in Yola conference that I am born a Hindu. It's not my fault. I'm an untouchable Hindu. I am born, but I will not die one. And in 1956, he fulfilled that promise along with almost 6 lakh followers. He embraced a new redefined Buddhist religion, which is called Navayana of Ambedkar, or modern Buddhism in modern times in India. So, religious dimension is making the traditional religion, orthodox religion of Hinduism or Varnashrama Dharma is making this caste system the most entrenched, the most, abominable kind of system. It's a matrix, it's a complex matrix. I think generations of struggles are required. Only through centuries of long struggle, we can somehow check this or completely annihilate it. It requires a lot of efforts and life struggles.
Hi sir, myself Shivna, PG second year student here. So Gail Olworth, in her famous book, Seeking Bedpura, she discusses a casteless utopia. So my question is, do you think Bahujan represents an idealistic and inclusive vision of marginalized, or is it more romantic than realistic?
Yes, it's a kind of utopia, but utopias are also required when we are into the hell of caste, the hellish kind of dystopia that we are into. We have the Ram Raj, in which Shudradis and women were not given justice as per Narayana Guru in 1914. We have this kind of lynching kind of spree today in India. So, in such dystopic and most toxic, barbaric kind of regression, what happened in Kerala, in 2019, women went out in public, caste Hindu women, elite women, educated women, professionals, advocates and lawyers and professors and engineers and doctors, medical doctors. They went out in public and said, we are Tindairis, we are untouchables. We are Tindairis because we are having the organic menstrual cycle. Therefore, we are Tindairis as per the norms of Manusmriti and Brahmanism. So, therefore, we don't want to enter into a public place of worship. That is called Tindairi Lahala, or Shudra Lahala, or Vishwasi Lahala, or Namajava Koshika. So, in such barbaric regressions, and in the background, the EWS was passed in the Devasam board, in which 90% was filled with a particular caste Hindu group. And they made it 10%. And they also, the regime in Kerala, they also challenged the union regime. We have implemented EWS here. Do you have the guts to implement it at the union level? That also happened. And only a few months later, Amit Shah and Modi, they implemented EWS in central kind of institution. So this kind of most brutal, most barbaric, most primitive, most regressive reaction, counter revolutions are happening every day, every second in India against the ethical constitution to undo it and make it into a Hindu Rashtra. That is the project. Ram Raj means Hindu Rashtra. The next year is going to be the centenary of the RSS. So that is the dream. From Vijaradhara, who actually paraded these people? Savarkar was brought into Kerala. Savarkar, the ideologue of Hindutva, and I am not using much elaborations on it, I will digress or enter into dangerous territory. So, Savarkar was brought into Kerala in 1940s by certain Keralites. Then Golwalkar was brought in Kerala in 1950s. And he was praised as the panacea of the Hindus here. RSS and Golwalkar are the panacea for the Hindus here. That was the praise. 1958 it happened in GDM Hall in Ernakulam. So this kind of dystopic and barbaric regressions are making the society inhuman. And then we need a utopia, whether it is the Begumpura, Kabir and his glorious otherworld, or whatever it is. We need certain alternative imaginations. We need the Bahujan Samaj, the Dalit Bahujan Samaj. We need the Kristuraj. So that was initiated in 19th century by Mahatma Phule. Phule imagined his Bahujan Samaj. He compared it with Baliraj, the kingdom of Mahabali. Mahabali, who was brutally cheated and deposed and sent to the netherworld. Means he was killed. He was dethroned and killed by that dwarf called Vamana. That's why Sahodaran in 1930s, he has written in Onapattu, the song of Onam. Sahodaran Ayyappan, the lead disciple of Narayana Guru, has written Vamanadarsham Vedinyidenam, Mahabali Vancha Varuthidenam. That is, you must leave away the ideology of Vamana. Ideology of Vamana means Brahmanism, what Ambedkar has written in all his 20 volumes and also the constitution. So Vamanadarsham Vedinyidenam, Mahabali Vancha Varuthidenam, the ancient Bahujan Samaj, the Raj of Bali, not Ram, but Baliraj must be there. So that's why even Mahatma Phule has taken Baliraj to refer to his future India. But unfortunately, the so-called father figure of our nation, he has adopted Ram Raj as the best thing. So that was a counter to the Baliraj of Mahatma Phule. Mahatma Phule imagined future India as a Baliraj, the kingdom of Mahabali, who was a renouncer, was an egalitarian ethical ruler who was into charity and giving away. Dara Dharmiya, he was a Buddhist ruler, Buddhist Bahujan ruler. That's why he was into charity, giving away Dhamma Dana, those ethical gifts and offerings and charity. That was the thing. And Baliraj was compared to Kristuraj also. Phule, because I told you he was denied education in the Brahmanical Gurukula. So he went to the Scottish missionaries, the Christian missionaries educated him. And the Muslims, they have, Fatima and Mr. Sheikh, they have supported him. So therefore, he compared his Baliraj with Kristuraj. That's also an alternative, like Begumpura, Baliraj or Kristuraj. All these things are very important. I think only with such dreams, greater goals of utopia, we can struggle against the diabolic, barbaric dystopia in the present. The matrix of fascism that I mentioned in connection with Gramsci and Ambedkar.